Me and you are two ADHD babies.
This is so impressive. Can I tell you something?
Bro,
I don't know what the hell it's
called. Why are you fucking this up? It represents the
It's
community.
so dizzy, I'm drinking water in a mug.
You're drinking water in a mug, yeah. Riz, bro, can we lock in?
We are, yeah.
But we leave each other very long voice memos.
Yeah. Might take me a month to get to it, but I'll get to it.
Hey, but it'll say 17 minutes, 34 seconds.
Actually, I think you starting a podcast makes a lot of sense. Just getting messages from you is like, oh, what's this week's episode?
Yeah, I'll do that with an ad read in it.
Yeah.
Checking how your family's doing, brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Riz Ahmed is the most talented person I know. He is a legit polymath. He went to Oxford. He could have done anything, but he just happened to choose to be an Emmy-winning actor and a critically acclaimed musician. Dude, he's even got a Star Wars action figure of himself. My man is a choking hazard for children under 3. And now he has created his first television series for Amazon called Bait. The show is fucking awesome. Fun fact, the co-creator of Patriot Act and this show, HMDK, Prashanth Venkataramanujam, was a writer and producer on Bait. Now, Prashanth wasn't in Star Wars, but he was in a college a cappella group called Chi-Town. Prashanth did this in college. I sat down with my buddy Riz to talk about representation.
Representation within a broken system means nothing. There's no point being in a room if the room just changes you.
The difference between American MAGA and British MAGA.
The big difference is our racist people have less guns, which is great.
And why he used James Bond as a narrative device for this new show, Bait.
Jordan Peele said when he made Get Out, he said being black in America is like being in a horror. My take is that being brown in the West is kind of like being in a spy thriller.
But we are gonna kick things off by taking a closer look at Riz's acting superpower. Quiet intensity.
Hurry right away, no delay, stop there. Make your daddy glad to have had such a lad.
Harvey Weinstein is complaining about Rikers. That's right. The supervillain of the Me Too movement is upset because he got punched in the face by a fellow inmate. And Harvey is correct. Hitting is wrong, even in prison. It is awful to be touched without consent. Anyways, I read about this story on Ground News, which is today's sponsor, and HMDK's favorite independent news platform. Ground News shows a breakdown of publications reporting on a story in which way they lean politically, whether it's right, left, or center. Now, it's not about eliminating bias. We all have biases, but Ground News helps you be a more conscientious consumer of the pageant of pain unfolding around us. Now, you may think, yeah, duh, CNN is slightly left, Fox is right. Why do I need this? Well, not everything is about America, folks. Ground News sources articles from all over the world. For example, there are currently 97 articles talking about Weinstein and Rikers, and a lot of the publications are international. Now, I know the Globo in Brazil leans right, and Le Monde in France leans left, and I'm keeping that in mind when I read their coverage. So go to groundnews.com/Hasan to subscribe and get 40% off the unlimited access Vantage plan, which breaks down to just $5 a month with my discount. Stay aware and go to groundnews.com/Hasan today. Riz, what do you think your greatest quality is?
My greatest quality is, I hope, is that I'm a good dad.
No. Your superpower is your quiet intensity. You know what I'm talking about.
What are you talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. That's what they pay the big bucks for. Now, we're going to play a game, okay? I am going to give you 4 emotional prompts, and you are going to respond to each of these prompts with the same line. I think these avocados have gone bad. Repeat the line back to me. Are you aware of the line, bro?
Wait, yes, I've got it.
I have to put you through 4 scenarios.
Oh, God, okay, come
so
on.
just so I know that you've memorized it.
I got it.
Okay, let's go. You suspect your girlfriend has cheated on you, but you're not sure. As she comes into the kitchen, you turn to her and you say,
I think these avocados have gone bad. No, man.
Come on, stop, bro. This is not going to be like
I want to retake.
No. Let me give you the other one.
Okay, good.
Come on. This is not your audition for Bodhi where you put the tie on your head and all this.
I did so many takes.
All right, hey.
All right, hello.
You're a serial killer with your victim tied up, helpless in your basement.
Fucking hell.
As you go over to your rack of torture instruments, you grab a drill, you hold it to their head, and you say,
I think these avocados have gone bad.
You're a doctor.
Yeah.
And you have to give your patient, who is also your father,
Oof. Love this scenario.
The news that he has 1 week to live.
Oh my God.
You put your hand on his shoulder. You look at him and you say,
Ambu. I think these avocados have gone bad. Yeah? Yeah?
we got one more.
Okay, good. One more, yeah.
You're the head of NASA. You have just learned that an asteroid is coming to hit Earth. As you contemplate the death and destruction of all of society and mankind as we know it, and you turn to a live broadcast to everyone on planet Earth, you say, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement. I think these avocados have gone bad. Yeah, right? That was...
Let's set the table because a lot of people don't know this. There is a big difference between South Asian diaspora in America,
Yeah.
South Asian diaspora in the UK.
Yeah.
First things first. How long have South Asians been in Britain? How long have you guys been in Britain?
Hundreds of years. Hundreds of years, yeah. So obviously Britain's relationship with South Asia goes way back, you know, because of colonialism and that whole thing.
Yeah.
So you had, I mean, actually interesting, there's a take, you know, Wuthering Heights is out at the moment. Wuthering Heights, my hot take, one of the best Bollywood films I've seen.
What's that? Why?
It's basically a Bollywood film, bro. There's like music, there's natak, there's like dancing, it's like a love story. It's like, it feels like a Devdas kind of vibe. That's my take on it.
Okay.
So I enjoyed it on that level. But, you know, Heathcliff is described as like dark-skinned and swarthy. Is swarthy low-key offensive?
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, it's offensive. We're having people nod off camera. It's
okay.
But he's described in the book as like dark-skinned and possibly of gypsy extraction and all this kind of stuff. And that's part of the whole taboo of why Catherine shouldn't be getting with him. A lot of like literary kind of, you know, academics and people and historians look at it and go like, he was an Indian sepoy. He was basically an Indian sailor or some, you know, there was that colonial connection. And that's actually, and so you had people in the UK that look like us going back hundreds of years. I think the first Indian member of parliament was in the 1800s. So yeah, it goes way back, you know, the founders of India and Pakistan, they themselves went to Oxford and Cambridge. Fact check me if that's wrong. And so I've been there for a minute, but I would say the big kind of migratory push was happening after World War II. You know, Britain was a decimated country and needed to rebuild itself. And so it invited people from its colonies, from the Caribbean, from South Asia to come and help and please rebuild the country. Yeah. And there was this kind of narrative that like, actually that's the homeland. Like as people who live under empire, like Britain is the mothership. So there was this kind of really blended sense of identity, for better and worse, that like Britain is home, even though I've never been there. And so it was post-World War II, and you started having a very working class community coming in primarily to help work in factories, to help build the infrastructure, you know, to literally rebuild Britain, you know?
Yeah.
And similarly from the Caribbean as well. And that continued. It was spiked again in the 70s. My family came there after the big kind of cyclones in Bangladesh, after the Indo-Pak War, after dictatorship and the Cold War started taking root in South Asia. You had more and more people coming. So my family got there in the 1970s. From what I understand, obviously you've had like Punjabi, Mexican marriages,
right,
and, people building railroads in California and stuff like that in America for a long time.
Right.
But the bigger migratory push was more 80s, 90s, that kind of thing.
So we had Chinese Exclusionary Act. So a bunch of Asian people came. Then in 1882, they were like, get out. All y'all gotta go.
Yeah, I remember.
Then 1964.
I remember like I was there.
Yeah. Civil Rights Act. 64, that's signed by Lyndon B. Johnson. A lot of the work of the civil rights movement. Then that brings over a bunch of highly educated
and that's the
Asians
big difference, because I think the bar for migration, if you were South Asian in America, was basically you have to have like a master's or a PhD or something. Yeah. So I remember coming here. I started coming here in like 2012, shooting the pilot of The Night Of. Right. I'm hanging out with people who's like, yeah, my mom is a professor at some. I was like, what? Uh-huh. And just seeing this, and then the suburban kind of thing, and it was interesting to me. I think in the UK, there's a lot more similarity. Of course, they're different. I'm not flattening the experience at all. So different in so many ways. Yeah. But being of Afro-Caribbean descent and being of Indian or Pakistani or South Asian descent, there were a lot more similarities to that. So that kind of civil rights struggle, if you want to call it that, it took place arm in arm. It's a lot more adjacent.
Right.
Whereas over here, it's like, nah,
Yeah.
that is not the same.
No, segregated.
At all. And again, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's the same there, but very different. It's kind of the immigrant experience kind of happened in one kind of in a bigger rush post World War II over there.
I want to do a compare and contrast. What does the Rishi Sunak moment mean politically? The Sadiq Khan moment mean politically in the UK for the South Asian diaspora? And then what does a Zohran Mamdani moment mean for the South Asian diaspora in the US? How do these compare and contrast? How are they similar? How are they different?
It's an interesting question, look, I mean, I think that have there been brown politicians before in the UK that are prominent? There have.
Yeah.
But a mayor of London, a prime minister, that is of course significant. I think what's more interesting than their brownness, and I think this is where the representation conversation kind of becomes a bit defunct, is like representation in and of itself means nothing, right? It's what are you representing, right? And I think what was so kind of groundbreaking and interesting and beautiful about Zohran's win is the kind of, he did not step into politics in a way that was deracinated, in a way that maybe Rishi Sunak did. He did not step in a way that was apologizing for his brownness, not in a way that was pandering to kind of anti-brown or anti-Muslim sentiments. And that's something that I think is really significant. I think that's also something significant with Sadiq Khan. But yes, I mean, by comparison, like, I guess you're right. We've had a Muslim mayor now for a very long time in the UK, in London, which is our biggest city. I think what is also interesting to me is like how both of these guys are like facing so much kind of racism, backlash, criticism, and in particular, there's this really hilarious meme that's like big on YouTube and on Instagram, which is
What's
like,
the meme?
London's been taken over.
Oh, yeah.
Right, here I am. I'm here with security. We're walking around London like you're on safari or something.
Yeah.
Like you got to turn up strapped. Like, bro, our policemen carry sticks, bro. Take them out with a slingshot. Like, and so they've got this whole thing where London's been taken over.
Yeah.
And like, Sharia law and it's dangerous. Sadiq Khan's London, mate. It's a Taliban. Actually, violent crime in London is at an all-time low. An all-time low. But of course, that's not the interesting talking point. So in the same way that Zohran has become a lightning rod for Islamophobic narratives in the States, Sadiq Khan has in the UK. What's meaningful about those and how that's really different to the Rishi Sunak moment is what are they representing? You know what I mean? Representation within a broken system means nothing unless you're going to try and change that system. Okay. There's no point being in a room if the room just changes you. And I think that's what Rishi Sunak represented to me and a lot of people. Now, having said that, there are a lot of very right-wing leaning, like Republican voting South Asians, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, brown
as
MAGA.
well.
Yeah,
so I'm
from
sure
brown
like
MAGA,
for some conservative voting South Asians, that was a big moment for them. But actually to me, it showed like how limiting it can be to talk about representation as an end in itself.
Right.
Representation is only useful to have a seat at the table if you're going to change up what's on the table. And I think that's what Sadiq has done. That's what Zohran's promising to do.
So we also have brown MAGA here. You guys clearly have brown MAGA there.
Well, actually, the chair...
But your MAGA dresses better than our MAGA.
You think?
Bro, the MAGA here, they're wearing fucking athleisure suits. It looks like they shrunk their suits in the goddamn dryer.
How does our MAGA dress?
Nigel Farage is a well-dressed person. He's a bigot, but he's well-dressed.
You think he's got...
Bro, you
can
see
flex.
let me just say this about Republican racism. It used to be in a 44 regular, well-tailored suit with a perfect peak lapel. Now these goddamn losers are wearing these Lululemon athleisure, untuckit.com.
If you're gonna hate me, dress for the occasion.
Yeah, these Cole Haan fucking, and by the way, I was sponsored by Cole Haan and I appreciate the money, but these Cole Haan like fucking, I'm at the airport, you can wear it to the airport and the golf course. Like bigotry needs to be refined. We used to be a country.
Right. Yeah. I guess, that's one thing that people do say about...
But your MAGA does dress
fascism. Better. Fascists traditionally used to dress very well, didn't they?
Extremely
Italian
well.
fascists,
Yeah,
German
totally.
fascists, they used to dress
totally.
well.
That should be the new Met Gala
one
theme.
thing
Yeah,
you can
OG
give them.
fascism. Just be like, all right, here we have...
They turned up.
No, their
sharp.
collars were on point. The tailoring was on point.
I have no part. I'm not co-signing this. Any of this. I'm not co-signing.
He's invited. I'm not invited.
This fascism.
No, it would be really funny though if they're just like, I'm dressed as Mao, Chairman Mao. Just
it's true. Yeah, he had a good look.
Nehru collar. There's a lot of like.
Yeah. You're right.
They were at least well dressed, is what I'm saying. What is the difference between the right wing movement there and the right wing movement here? Is it also a proto-fascist movement there? Is it? What are the similarities and differences?
There's a lot of similarities, and they're talking about replacement, the great replacement theory, and all that. It's about anti-migration. A lot of it's about the lightning rod of Islamophobia. A lot of it's taking place along the backdrop of like Western economic decline and rising inequality. I think that's a lot of the similarities.
Yes.
The big difference is our racist people have less guns,
Okay.
which is great. Which is really lucky. Which is really good.
They're not strapped.
Well, yeah. I mean, they get to spend that money on their outfits.
Okay.
They made that decision.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they look dangerously fashionable.
Okay.
But they won't kill you as quickly.
Got you.
So I think that's the big difference. I also kind of feel like there is a thing now with the American right wing where it's just like cartoonishly brazen, right? You know what I mean? It's just like the things you read, the tweets you read, it's like WWE wrestling or something. You know what I mean? Whereas I think there is still an attempt often to try and dress up British racism as like polite common sense.
There's a decorum to it.
Yeah,
there's
exactly,
a decorum to it,
exactly. So, and that's one thing that you know you could say for better or worse is that like Americans are much more in your face about what they think, and the Brits kind of like kill you with a smile.
Yeah.
So I think that's a slight cultural difference, but I think actually what we're seeing is like startlingly similar playbook and narratives taking root everywhere, from like India to the US, the UK to Hungary to France.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the same couple of talking points. It's like Islamophobia, it's like gender,
Right.
the gender war,
That culture war, and the country's
it's
changing.
immigration.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The UK is a dead empire, and the United
How dare
States
you say that?
is it's an Instagram country. I told you this, that you live in an Instagram country. So there's like
You think?
Instagram countries where you bring your girlfriend, you
you
pull up
take
with
photos,
bae,
but
you
it's
take
a-
photos,
yeah,
and
yeah. But
you
it's just a
whisper in
museum.
castles, and
Got it,
you keep
got
it
it.
moving. It's an Instagram country. You know, France is an Instagram country, Hungary is an Instagram country.
Do you think why isn't
Great
America
London.
an Instagram country?
I mean,
just out
we're
of
a-
interest, like with the yellow taxis, and they're like, I'm walking around today going like, when is like Rachel and Ross gonna like pop out of the next corner?
No,
bro?
there's too many
It
potholes.
just looks like
there's too
a-
many potholes. It's too
Yeah.
shitty here. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not aesthetically pleasing. But we are so you come from a dead empire. This is a dying empire.
Yeah.
The United States, we're here. We're on our deathbed. We're coding. We're about to die of cardiac arrest. As someone who is living in the future and has lived through the future, what do we have to look forward to as we see the light?
What you have to look forward to is a lot of people claiming that they can bring the empire back to life by doing increasingly stupid stuff, like Brexit. So, like, you know, the fantasy of empire doesn't leave just because the reality of it has left. You know,
Yeah.
it's that mythology is so intoxicating and powerful. You know, and honestly, the idea of like we once were great and we're gonna get back there again. It's kind of something that has haunted so many civilizations again and again. You know, like the periods of the Roman Empire are about trying to get back to where we were before, or you know, this kind of like revivalism. I think is like a big part of the politics of denial. You know, so I kind of think that the reality of empire arguably is dying, arguably may already be dead. The more forceful you have to be to control your empire, the more shaky your control is over it, probably, right? So I kind of think that actually the narrative of empire will remain and may actually become even more strident. And so the actions to try and shore that empire up, it's like, you know, the smallest kid in the club, like it's the small guy outside the club at 3 a.m. you got to be worried about, right?
Right.
It's like that kind of overcompensatory thing.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see more bombing of more countries, and I think we're going to see more of this kind of like beating of the war drum, more posturing, more grandiose narratives, the more the reality is kind of sliding away from that, because it's like it's clutching desperately as something that's slipping through your fingers. So there's that to look forward to.
This is gonna get worse.
I think so. I think so. I think
Oh
it'll get
man, the
worse,
worst
yeah.
is yet to come.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about the new show, Bait, Amazon. Let's get it. March 25th, streaming now. You pitched me Bait at Swingers Diner in West Hollywood. You acted out the entire series.
Did
Yeah, he basically did an interpretive monologue to me at Swingers.
that's true.
Yeah.
Do you gotta tell you something? You invited me to this Swingers Diner place,
Yeah.
and you're like, man, the smoothies, the sundaes, the ice cream, the pancakes, they're amazing.
Yeah.
And we sit down, and they go like, hey, what are you having? And I'll go, oh man, I'll have the like, I'm in America, screw it. I'll have the pancakes with the ice cream and the sundae.
Yeah.
And you go to you, and you're like, ice water, please. It's like, what the hell is that, bro? You set me up, man.
I set you up.
That was-
I did set you
I
up.
was-
I did set you up. I was
That
like,
was
let's
some
get wild.
snaky- that was some snaky business, yeah.
I let you take the first bite of sin. But I got an Oreo shake. Stop capping, bro. I got an Oreo shake to cap it off. No whip. They know
really
what it is.
forced you.
I go there all the time. It's my favorite kick it to go to. But anyways, you pitched it to me real quick. I'm not going to have you do the full, because it was incredible. You actually did the cold open of the pilot all the way to the end. I'm not going to have you do that. But it was pretty
It would
amazing
save
that you did it.
people a couple of hours, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just did that.
Yeah. But what is the premise of Bait?
The premise of Bait is there's this kind of out of work British Pakistani actor who somehow gets through to auditions to be the next James Bond. And when word gets out that he might be the next Bond, people have some very strong opinions about it. So much so that his life starts to resemble the spy thriller he's auditioning for. So, you know, like Jordan Peele said when he made Get Out, he said being black in America is like being in a horror. That's why I made it. My take is that being brown in the West is kind of like being in a spy thriller, right? Against your will. And so I wanted to use that wheelhouse, use the world of Bond, use the world of like paranoid spy thrillers to actually do like a comedy. It's about how life always feels like one big audition. I think that's like something that people can relate to even if they don't audition for a living, you know? We're constantly trying to project this version of ourselves that's in control, successful, desirable. But behind that beautiful, you know, Instagram photo is like the panic attack and the loneliness and the anxiety. So it's about that gap between how we want to be seen and who we are.
Right.
And I've told it in this playground of the world of Bond and this out of work actor.
Do you remember the original seed of the idea? Is it true that it came from Chris Morris?
That's such a funny thing you should say. It didn't come from Chris Morris, but here's the thing. So I had been kind of scribbling down ideas for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And those ideas were all about, like I was saying, that gap between how life really is and how it's seen. Right? Let me give you an example. When when it got announced I was in Star Wars, right? People are texting me like, bro, you've made it. You're blowing up. You're killing it. And what people don't realize is you're in a Hollywood movie. You still have to do your own laundry. Right?
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so what's
sure.
happened is we've got a water leak. The washing machine's broken. Haven't got any clean clothes. So I head out to do my laundry in a massive laundry bag full of dirty clothes.
Yeah.
You
You headed to the laundromat.
pink swan
Yeah.
shit, pink swim shorts, bright green puffer jacket, flip flops. Only clothes I have. I tried to wash my sneakers as well. Stupid idea. I'm on my way. I realize it's my brother's birthday. I haven't got him a cake. I head in to Tesco's, which is our local supermarket. I think, let me get him a birthday pizza that he likes. I forget to beep the pizza properly on the self-checkout. They think this is the world's worst shoplifter.
They thought you
He's turned up
shoplifted
in the
frozen
Yeah,
pizza,
he's like, this guy's not well. You know, the way he's dressed and he's doing this whole thing and he's rushing
Yeah.
around. I need a pizza. I need a birthday candle for a pizza. You know, it's a bizarre order I'm trying to check out.
Yeah.
Birthday candles and pizzas. And they catch me and they're like, hey, you're shoplifting. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And I'm late. And also I've got to do my laundry and I've got a water leak.
Yeah.
I'm seeing...
Right. You're in
little
swim
bit
trunks
crazy.
and a puffer and you're like, why would I shoplift?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I totally have
And
it
then
under
they
control.
basically, the situation devolves to me kind of basically on my 2 hours sleep trying to deal with his leak, going, dude, I'm not shoplifting, I'm in Star Wars. And they're like, he's definitely crazy. You're banned.
Yes.
We're going to call the police if you ever come back to Tesco's. That was the reality. Okay. The perception is like I'm on a yacht with Han Solo. Or something,
Right. Yeah.
And I just started writing up these examples. And so it grew out of that, but shaping it into this version of this story through the prism of James Bond, that happened when I connected with my co-showrunner, Ben Carlin, who's an incredible, super experienced writer. Works a lot on the, what's it called? The show, Jon Stewart show.
Colbert Report, bro.
Colbert
He's right
Report,
here.
yes,
How are you
yes,
getting
yes.
this wrong? He's
Bro,
right
I don't know
here.
what the hell it's
Why are you
called. What's
fucking
it
this
called?
up? He's
What's
fucking it
called?
up. It was
They're
called
all-
the Colbert
Can I tell you
Report.
something about
He's
American
won like
late
16
night?
Emmys.
They are all
Jesus.
They are all called The Tonight Show. Every single one of your shows
Graham
is
Norton's
called The
not
Tonight Show.
called The Tonight
Tonight
Show.
with Jay Leno. Tonight with Jimmy Fallon. All the-
Brother,
There's a lot of tonights,
have a little
bro.
bit of
That's what I'm
respect.
saying.
It's the Tonight Show and it's the Late Show. There's a difference.
Okay, The Late Show, The
Okay.
Tonight Show.
These are different parts
Listen,
of the
bro,
night.
give the man his flowers. You're
All right.
screwing this whole bit up.
All right.
Okay?
Okay. Do you want me to set this up properly? Look, you gave it an interview in GQ in 2018. You were in an iconic movie called Four Lions, which is Huge in the diaspora. Basically, the premise of Four Lions, you should watch this movie. You probably haven't seen the movie, but if you're brown, you've seen the movie. Premise of Four Lions is a bunch of dudes try to join Al-Qaeda, but they're too stupid to join
Al-Qaeda. It's actually a
Al-Qaeda.
lot of white people's favorite movie as well.
Oh, really?
In the UK, it's like a cult classic in the way that, I don't know what you guys have, like Napoleon Dynamite or something. It's like a
I
lot
didn't
of
know
people,
that.
it's like, it's my jam.
Got it.
So it's
a Sunday school classic here in America. Like if
Right.
you went to Sunday school together, like, did you see Four Lions? Like it's a
Hilarious,
very
okay.
subversive comedy. But Chris Morris, writer director of Four Lions, tried to convince you to do it. Then this was written about in a GQ interview. Now, brother, look, I don't always trust interviews, okay? But you tell me if this is true. He's still worried about starring in it until Morris put it like this. This is a step towards a brown James Bond. And suddenly, Ahmed says, he got it.
This is so impressive. Can I tell you something? I
What's
thought
up?
finally, if you're doing a podcast, you
What?
could finally leave the whole PowerPoint thing behind
Never.
you.
Never, bro.
But even doing a podcast,
No, never.
my guy's got a PowerPoint thing
Never.
going on. It's
Yeah.
what's happening? It's amazing. It's very impressive.
Well,
and
what's interesting
upsetting.
is how this connects to Bait,
Well,
bro.
it is very interesting because really what is James, and this is what Chris meant by this. I said, I don't want to play a terrorist. I don't want to be doing that kind of stuff. I want to be playing lead relatable roles that people can relate to. And he said, there's a step towards brown James Bond. And what he means by that is these characters, despite their misguided political views or their background, will
Yeah.
be characters you are rooting for. And so it was that was definitely maybe somewhere in my subconscious. And so like it wasn't like Four Lions led to Bait, but I guess the similarities of this is that you're rooting for an unusual kind of character, and also the style of humor, the comedy, the fast-paced kind of
Right.
witty British kind of sweary kind of thing.
But in that moment, did that seem tantalizing in the early aughts of like,
Right.
hey man, if you do
Being
this
James
role,
Bond?
you could be number one on the call sheet. This is your path to
Right, yes. No, I didn't ever think that I would actually be James Bond by doing Four Lions. Quite the opposite.
Okay.
But I did think that he had a point in that if you want to play characters that are relatable and that a wide section of the audience can root for and not be kind of othered in the stories, that doesn't mean you shouldn't lean into the specificity of who you are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
There's two ways of trying to like connect with audiences. One
yeah.
is like, I'm Bob. I'm playing a character named
Right,
Bob.
right,
I'm
right.
Dave. Let's not talk about my background or anything. It's just going to be random. It's going to be
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
we're not even talking about it. The other part of it is like, I don't know, like what Cool is doing. You know, what Cooler and Michael B are doing is like, we're
Totally.
going to lean into the specificity of our identity, our heritage, our culture. But it's just slaps. And it's like, and
Right.
so people will relate to the specificity of it. So I think that's something that I took with me. And I think Bait is that show that is both very, very specific. I mean, we literally filmed it in the neighborhood I grew up in.
Yeah.
The park where I first held hands with a girl and first time I got jumped. That literal park,
Yeah.
that staircase is in the show. The first time I had a panic attack when I was about to go on stage to do a club, we restaged that exact scene in that exact venue in North London, Kentish Town Forum.
Wow.
And so much of it is leaning into the specificity, and the feedback I've got is people are just finding it very relatable on an emotional level.
Yeah. I loved it, bro.
So it had all these ingredients of these kind of crazy stories,
Yeah.
but what made it coalesce together and tell a story through the prism of James Bond was when I connected with my co-showrunner, Ben Carlin, who's an incredible experienced writer, showrunner, multi-award-winning Don. And he, when talking to him about my life and talking about some of those juxtapositions, talked about how my name had been mentioned in relation to James Bond a couple of times and potential casting in press and whatever.
Right.
And he was like, that's it. That's the symbol of aspiration, success, manhood, desirability that this character needs to be chasing, because we're telling a story about a character who wants to be seen in this way,
Yeah.
but he actually feels like this.
Right.
It couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
So James Bond is a really useful archetype to explore that journey of self-love and needing self-love.
So to me, the series really grapples with paradox. And I feel like your work is at its best when it does that. It's not giving these hard answers. In the West, in America, there's very much of like, what is the answer to this? How do we exactly stop this? How do we stop capitalism? How do we stop imperialism? And what you've done brilliantly on the show is you, in each episode, unpack different paradoxes. Episode 1, the rumor leaks that Shah's going to be the next James Bond.
Or that he's auditioning.
That he's auditioning to be the
Yeah.
next James Bond. Shah's father says something. He drops a bar that I think is the ultimate first
Which says,
paradox.
Call me if you need a body double for sex
For sex scenes, that's the first one, which is, yo, A lot of brown horn dogs out there for older men that still think they got lead in the pencil. Love that. Love that joke. Let's put that on the shelf. But the one that I really love that you dropped in the trailer that a lot of people I don't think are, let's double click on this one, is Ye unki mulk hai, unko mat ghabrao. This is their country.
Unko mat bhadkao, yeah.
Yeah, don't
provoke them. This
Don't
is their
provoke
country.
them. Don't bother them.
ये उन लोगों का मुल्क है, इनको भड़काओ नहीं.
You know, I sometimes think maybe my dad was right with that, because he'd say that to me.
Well, that's the first paradox, which is, do you dream big? Do you go for it? Or it's like, hey, look, if I do that.
Because our parents'
keep your
generation
head
was
down.
keep your head down or they're going to throw us out. And our generation was like, they ain't going to throw us out. This is my country. I'm born here and, you know, we're part of the fabric of this. Even before we even got to this country,
Right.
we, you know, our blood and soil and toil built this place in empire. And like, there's an argument to say that like the prominence of our stories, the strident tone of our desire to have a seat at the table, the unapologetic nature of our culture and our self-expression is part of what we are seeing this big right-wing backlash against, right? That actually it is, and you see that, I guess, you know, with when people are getting, you know, oh, look who they cast for The Little Mermaid, look who they cast in Cinderella, you know, and you see all this kind of stuff. People just like, these archetypes, these cartoon characters are like mean so much to them. They feel like they're symbols of their primacy, right? And so there's an argument to say that, you know, our parents were right in a way. Is like trying to aim higher and trying to act like you belong there and it's your table as well. Of course, you can have a seat at it. That ends up creating backlash and provoking them. Does that mean we shouldn't do it? No. Of course that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean like, you know...
No, it's tricky, bro. So I was watching The Martian. This is
But
a random
both those
tangent.
things are true.
Yeah, I was watching The Martian, and then my dad walked in. He got super mad, and he just basically said, "Why are you watching this? They're not sending brown people to the moon." First of all, I think he wasn't on the moon. I think he was on Mars. He's on another planet. But I take Najmi's point. He's like, "What the fuck are you? Why are you thinking about
What
this?
did he want you to watch?
What do our
Thinking
dads
about
want us to
Ertugrul.
watch? If our dads could, like Navi, connect to the fucking news, they are. The news has fried their brain.
It's
The
the
news in
news.
WhatsApp, bro, it's like this to
It's
their
the
brain.
news, isn't it?
Yeah, the Navi style. They just plug right in.
Navi style. It's
Yeah.
true. And does you watch Indian news?
ZTV, Indian
ZTV,
News,
Indian news,
NDTV,
yeah, Pakistani
all of it.
news,
Yeah,
Indian
yeah.
news, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is that.
So it's an interesting thing, meaning, but I got into this argument with him. It's simultaneously sad and real. He is right. Like, they're not trying to, this kind of Chris Nolan interstellar narrative does not include Bengali immigrants in it.
Right,
respectfully.
Yeah.
Right? This sort of like, hey, time is my greatest challenge. I'm going to bend time. That's the greatest. Like, bro, we have real challenges. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Kolkata Chai has brand new tea bags. It is so easy, I literally don't have to think about it. Hot water, tea bag, mug, dunzo. Okay, but what do I think about now? But real talk, what is a microwave actually? It hums, it dings, it spins, but what is making the food hot? Hello! Screw you, countertop Chernobyl. Hard pass. Okay, just enjoy this moment for 1 second without, ooh, hello fridge. Oh, my chilly little frenemy. I tolerate you, but I do not trust you. Do you remove heat or do you add cold? Ew. I'm getting cold just thinking about it. You know, I should make some chai to warm up. Stupid Hasan, you're already making chai. But I forgot about it because these tea bags are literally doing all the work. Wait, is it a tea bag or a chai bag or a chai tea? Nope, no. Not going there. Just add hot water, milk, and sweetener of your choice. Honestly, it's the best chai in the game. I should go tell someone.
If stories didn't matter, then people wouldn't try and censor them. If stories didn't matter, then stories would not be banned or they would not be considered subversive. We would not give them the attention that we do. Yes, part of why we give stories attention is part of like kind of distract people, entertain people, numb people. I'm going to call that entertainment. I'm not going to call that art, you know. But a lot of kind of the reason why we do is because inbuilt to us is like we have a reverence for story because it's how we make meaning out of our reality, you know, and the weighting that we give to different characters in stories or.
so you believe Nicole Kidman?
Huh?
You believe Nicole Kidman?
Mostly. Why? What'd you do?
Man, you know what I'm talking about. Play Nicole Kidman.
We come to this place for magic. We come to AMC theaters to laugh, to cry, to care. Because we need that.
Yeah.
All of us.
Of course we do.
That indescribable feeling we get
Yep.
when the lights begin to dim.
AMC 16 or 25 here in Manhattan.
And we go somewhere
Here we go.
we've never been before. Not just entertained.
Not just
but somehow
entertained.
reborn. Together. Dazzling images. on a
Nicole took
huge
all my
silver
talking
screen.
points.
Sound
I got
that
nothing
I
for the rest of this
feel.
podcast, honestly. This is like this is the bit that I do.
Heartbreak feels good in a place like this. Our heroes feel like the best part of us. And stories feel perfect and powerful.
I've got a take on this, yeah.
Because here,
Don't interrupt her.
they are. AMC Theaters. We make movies better.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Thank you, Nicole. She's got bars for days. So here's what I'd say. Stories do matter, but representation is not an end in itself. You know, there's like this theory of media. I think it is like Herbert Marcuse or someone like that. I'm probably misquoting, but this idea that like actually in order to maintain control of a society, you need to have kind of tokenistic representation of marginalized groups, right, within it. To feel like they've got something, and actually the something they have is meaningless. It's like a Marxist kind of like critique of like liberal media, right? Like we're gonna represent all these different points of view.
Give them a couple
and
of these shreds of these
exactly, it's
these little
crumbs,
crumbs.
but actually
Yeah.
the structures which you are creating in are still oppressive. They're still corrupting. They're still capitalistic. They're still unequal, and all that kind of stuff. Now that is partly true. But that's also not accounting for all the stories we're telling outside of those systems. You know, stories matter not just like when you go to see them at AMC theaters. They matter the stories you tell your kid. They matter the stories you've inherited. They matter in books. They matter in regional theater. The stories, I'd say, are bigger than just like corporate Hollywood necessarily, right? I'm not going to kind of tie the value of storytelling purely to that
AMC movie
arena.
theaters,
But
right.
even within that arena, of course, it's meaningful having, Sinners up there smashing it in that way. Of course, it's meaningful having Black Panther in that kind of way. And that's because, and again, I say it's not an end in itself, but that's because of what it inspires, how it inspires people to see themselves differently and see other people differently.
Yeah.
I do think that what stories do and what our role as storytellers is to constantly expand the scope of who is considered human and what is considered human. I think stories matter for all those reasons, right?
Yes.
But what excites me more now, rather than having a seat at the table, is building my own table, right? And that's what Bait is for me. That's what Hamlet is for me. That's what, building my company is. I guess like I came into this kind of feeling like, I want to stretch culture.
Yeah.
Really. That's what I think stories have the ability to do. Like I said, expand the scope of who and what is considered human. I want to stretch culture. And before I thought that was mainly about like me just popping up as Bodhi Rooker in Venom and that kind of stuff, stepping into the archetypes that already exist. But actually, there's so many that we need to create, so many we need to invent. And I really loved this response that Dev Patel gave actually about the idea of playing James Bond after Monkey Man came out, which is such a banger, so impressive, such an incredible film.
Yeah, no,
and they said to him like, so Dev, after this, do you want to do James Bond? And he said, I don't want us all fighting over the same scraps. I want us to tell our own stories as well.
Right.
I wanted to add new kind of things, I want to add like new archetypes to this kind of feast, you know what I mean? So no, I don't want to be James, I want to be Monkey Man. I thought that was such a beautiful way of kind of getting out of this binary of like this representation matters. Because representation is often about like being invited to take a seat at someone else's table. But actually for me, the thing I'm more interested in now is like I said, building my own table.
I mean, one of the things you talk about in the second episode, Shah's supposed to go to a very fancy British museum event. He's with his cousin Zulfi.
Which literally they then created an actual one the year after we made the show.
Oh,
They
that
created
replicates.
a British museum, like a version of the British Met Gala, directly after
Oh shit!
we shot ours.
But there's a really
So it's
powerful
kinda
moment in
funny.
it where there's a bunch of protesters outside of the event, right? And it's kind of this really great avatar. It represents the
This is
community.
so dizzy, I'm drinking water in a mug.
You're drinking water in a mug, yeah.
This is classic.
Yeah, bro.
Let me just get the brand.
In a
away.
chai mug, yeah. He tells the protesters, he walks by the protesters, and his cousin says, you got to be outside with the community. You got to be outside with your community. take a picture with
Yeah.
them. And Shah says, we got to get in the room. Like, I can't be with my masjid friends. I got to get in the room. Change happens in the room. And one of the things you've talked about is the power of getting in the room. You've been in every room that you could possibly think of. You worked with every director you could possibly think of. Your discography is crazy. Your filmography is nuts. And one of the things you've talked about in interviews is sometimes you go into the room, but the room changes you.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I think that access to power, access to these rooms can be intoxicating in and of itself. And that's what I mean by representation not being an access and your position not being an end in itself. Rishi Sunak being prime minister is meaningless. It's about what are you doing when you're in that room? How are you trying to change it? How are you trying to bring other people through as well, rather than trying to be the only one? You know, so that's kind of what I mean by that. And I think often, like, you know, the desire to have access and to have that position and have that favor can be so intoxicating that you will muzzle yourself, you will censor yourself, you will leave behind your values and the version of yourself that you were before. And that's partly what the show's kind of exploring, is this idea of like, how far do we travel from home in the hope of trying to represent home? How far do we lose? You know, Bassam is an amazing director. He directed Mughal Mowgli, directed the first 3 episodes of Bait as well. Yeah. He said, like, you know what I realized? Like, making stories about home and writing love letters through my movies to home is a lot easier than being there.
Yeah.
You know
totally,
what I mean?
yeah.
And there is that.
Because then you got to be home with your parents and you're like, bro, this is nuts. Actually, you have to be with your family. It's better to write fictional family
So
than actually unpack real family.
But you know, I mean, I guess there's this kind of like representing is like a really there's a nobility in that, but it's also a kind of like way of not being present.
Yeah.
You know,
The other paradox that's really beautiful that you unpack in the show is the desperation of celebrity. So in episode 102, he goes into this fancy schmancy event, okay? And he's one of the only brown people there. There's another surprise cameo by another amazing brown actor. He's there. But you can feel Shah's desperation. He's got to say everything right. And he's got his perfect speech plan. But we've also felt the desperation of our community that's outside the building.
Why are you going in there? Man, sold out. You should be out here with us.
Hey, yo, I just wanted a photo with you. What's the problem?
Bro, if I get a photo take with them lot, it's not the right image I'm going for right now, all right? The real change happens in there. We got to get in there.
I mean, what's your feeling on this whole, like, you know, when my character's like, no, the change happens in there, happens in the room, versus you should be out here protesting with us? What's your take on that? Because the hilarious thing is, we made the show, and then directly after we made the show, this actually happened. They had a British Museum version of the Met Gala. MIA was performing, and lots of people performing, and it was like Indian themed.
Whoa.
And of course, as the British Museum houses lots of kind of colonial artifacts that were kind of looted and stuff. Some sold, some looted. And there were protesters there. Yeah. And people like came up and like tried to bum rush the thing. So it was kind of crazy, like the mirroring of art and life. Yeah. And I guess like, what's your take on that whole thing of like being in the room versus not? So we've both been to the Met Gala. We were both there together.
Yeah, my take on it is the whole thing of being a public figure or celebrity is actually just a tragedy. Because the thing that you're given, the gift, the tofa that you're given, is the opportunity to change your life. The tragedy is that you try to change the lives of others, but sometimes you can't. And you see those limitations. So you see this thing that's really beautiful and life-changing. And then you also can't get your dad to take his diabetes medication. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I mean,
so I can pay for my mom's knee surgery, but I cannot get my dad to uptake his protein diet. But this dude will pound Krispy Kreme donuts.
Yeah.
He's coming to the premiere tonight.
He will immediately go for this,
man. He's gonna, if they have Coca-Cola, he's going to the Coca-Cola.
What you said goes to the heart of the show.
So it's a tragedy. It's actually a tragedy.
The mandate of social mobility, the mandate of the immigrant child is leave us behind. Don't look back, but also take us with you. And it's like,
it's a paradox.
It's a total paradox, and you're kind of stuck in a kind of no man's land. So I think that really goes to the heart of the show. Again, it's like, how far do you travel from home to try and represent change, please, or help home?
Yeah.
You know, and can you ever go back, really? You know, what is that about? And I actually think that's something that people can relate to, not just if you're like brown or child of immigrants. You know, so many people like leaving their smaller cities and towns and moving to the big city. It's
to change their life.
To change their life and and to kind of try and help the lives of the people they've left behind, right?
Yeah.
But can you ever go back? Can you ever bring them with you? What is that?
Totally.
The mandate we've been handed is a kind of a lonely one.
So that you articulate beautifully in the show in the 3rd episode. Bro, I don't even think this is a fictional show. This might be a documentary. I'm watching the show and this is harrowing. Full-on family fights.
It's funny. It's a comedy.
It's super funny.
It's a comedy. But we're trying to actually, what I love about comedy is you can be more raw than you can in a drama. You can be more ugly, more honest, more messy than you can in a drama.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about comedy.
But at the end of episode 3, he gets into it with both of his parents. His dad provokes him and says, "Nikal jao yahan se. Get out of here." And he said, "Why are you telling me to nikal jao? Why are you telling me to leave? I left to go do something good. Why are you telling me to leave? I'm trying to do something. I'm not sitting here watching the fucking news and complaining. I'm out here trying to change the world so that people don't treat me like a worthless, stinking packy."
That scene, that episode, a lot of different things went into it. First of all, my parents always watched those Indian dramas.
Yes.
And Pakistani dramas.
Yes.
And often in those Indian dramas, you have a massive family occasion. Everyone is in their finery. Everyone is kind of there looking their best. And some like terrible bust up happens publicly.
Yeah.
And someone gets slapped and there's crash zooms and there's all this kind of stuff. I actually wanted to like take from that and find what is the truthful version of that. That both winks at that genre, but it's actually about what is at the heart of that genre. What is it, like the real pain at the heart of it.
Yes.
And I wanted to try and walk a line of both, like with the whole show, both dealing with kind of like something kind of heightened and comedic and playful, but actually just gets to the root of that emotion. So that's one thing I wanted to do, kind of like just conceptually, is play with that thing. Because when I watched those things with my parents, I'm like, this is amazing, but also it didn't feel real to me.
Right.
I want it to be just as crazy, but also real. That was one thing I wanted to play with. The other thing that went into it is like something about, look, the show partly is interrogating this idea of the arrogance and delusion of the representer. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this to help you and change your lives. Why can't you be grateful? It's like, bro, you ain't changing nothing for me.
Right.
You're sorting, you're getting paid, you're getting pats on the back, you're getting this, that, and the other. Yeah, sure, maybe I caught a little contact high off of like having your action figure once or twice, but like, bro, your success is actually allows them to ignore the rest of our reality. That's a narrative that a lot of people have.
Bro,
right?
I've been told this.
Yeah.
They're like, oh,
what?
you think you having this fancy schmancy YouTube podcast, I'm benefiting from it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you're CC'd on the email. But my mom's like, no, you BCC us. We're forgotten.
Yeah.
To the sands of time.
You're left behind,
It's too
right?
real.
And there's just truth in that. I mean, that's not just true for people who are artists, but also like politicians, right? The idea of like when you go to another place to represent a group of people in your constituency, do you necessarily lose contact with them? Are you benefiting them or yourselves, right? So it's that whole idea. I wanted to kind of play with that as well, because I felt both sides of that. I've sometimes felt like, man, like this Berendu thinks he's like, what do you think this is, bro? You're not in the streets. Like I felt it from that side to some people, and I've also felt it from the other side. Like, man, I'm busting my ass to try and put my people on, try and celebrate the culture, and the people who come for you most are your own people. That's crazy.
Right.
I've seen both sides of that. I don't have a view on it really. I'm just an artist trying to make my work and make it as honest and messy as possible, and that's how life is. And you work it out as you go. But I was really interested in that question. You know, I was really interested in that paradox of that love-hate, you know?
Yeah, and even the paradox of the platform. Shah represents the celebrity platform, the one who made it through the door. So he better use his platform to change the world. But you also see the limitations of him being the only one in the room, of how
and
much
also
can I
the
change
people,
it?
and also the people who have not made it into the room often don't understand how tentative and conditional your place in the room is.
Right.
It's like, bro, you walked on that red carpet, you can do what you want, man. And it's like, bro, like, this ain't my house. You know what I mean? So it's interesting, kind of like, again, the gap between perception and reality. Somebody once told me that the gap between your public and private self is the amount of shame that you carry, right? I think that's true. That's kind of what that playground of shame is, where the show is kind of like, telling its story.
One of the interesting things that happens in the story too is Shah has an agent, and man, Shah has to do the one thing every celebrity hates. Brother, I've done it. You got two choices. You either do the Notepad app,
Apology.
you go in-grid, or you do what I did. You go two-camera. And during this holy month of Ramadan, may Allah protect you from ever having to go two-camera. But a recurring theme and paradox that you talk about in the show is the public persona that we all have to take.
Yeah.
And by the way, every citizen and netizen has to go
That's
two-camera
what I'm
now.
saying. This is not a show about being an actor or a celebrity. I couldn't care less if it was that show. It's actually about something that we all go through. We all have that public persona. We all have that online avatar, that Instagram profile, and it's totally at odds with our reality. Right? Which is why we feel so lonely now, because we're not actually kind of out there communicating, connecting with the versions of who we are, the version of who we want to be and how we want to be seen. So that gap is not exclusive to celebrities and actors.
We got to get out of here, so I'm going to do two things. One of the things that I loved, just so you know, all right, we got like 5 to 7 minutes left. Talk about adding something to the culture. One of the things you've done in all your projects, but I loved about this project, is you added Qawwali music to the genre, to the form. Everybody gets a chance, hopefully, fingers crossed, as an artist to have your own show. You end episode 3 with this very beautiful Qawwali track, Sakia or
It's one of my favorite.
Bro, it's beautiful. It moved me to tears. I watched it 3 times back. Like, it's a beautiful song. And then I added it to my Spotify playlist. So it's kind of crazy that I have Sakia or Piland and then I have T-Pain like back to back. It's a very strange thing.
Saying similar things.
But talk about what that means to you. Why does that matter to add something so specific and beautiful? You're the one that put me onto it.
Yeah, I mean, partly it's just kind of honoring the reality and authenticity of the world, right? Like, we wanted to create a world that musically was as specific as it was for me growing up in Wembley or whatever, right? And we actually ended up leaning into a very particular kind of South Asian music for most of the show, which is late 70s, early 80s, Pakistani and Indian psychedelic funk that was used, and disco.
Yeah.
So this is like, India and Pakistan, like the heart of the hippie trail coming in from Afghanistan and stuff. So you had some like crazy, acidy, kind of psychedelic, funky, crazy, really playful, unexpected, subversive music. And that's kind of laced in throughout the whole show. But there's this moment of Qawwali that I wanted, I mean, just on a really basic level, like it hits me emotionally. It just hits differently to me. Maybe because I grew up around it, maybe because, it kind of goes back into my deep brain and my child brain, but also just because it is in the same way that like Fado, that Portuguese tradition, it's music that is designed to just hit you emotionally with a level of like pain and poetry that I think is really hard to match. And then the third reason, so like, it's authenticity, it's like my own personal connection to it, but also because I actually do want to put people onto this music.
Yeah.
You
helped me understand it beyond just the cassette tape. No, but you unlocked its connection to our culture and heritage. Not only, it's almost like our gospel movement music meets soul music.
Yeah, let me speak
poetry,
on it a little bit.
Yeah.
So on our Sweatshop Boys album, Kashmir, we sampled a lot of Qawwali and we had interludes of Qawwali. And specifically, I wanted to use excerpts of recordings that sounded interestingly like rap music. So if you have a Qawwali singer like Aziz Mia, he's going double time and rapping like he's like barring it out, like he's an MC.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to find a way to a lineage to trace my own artistry back to that wasn't purely appropriating from another tradition. I actually wanted to see how I could fuse and confuse it with like, UK dance music, American rap, and Qawwali, and those kind of, that holy trinity is kind of what makes me up. You know what I mean? That's what I grew up listening to. And so I want to put people onto this music, and I think something that's really beautiful about it is, again, it's about paradox. Saqiya aur pila is a bartender, pour me another.
Yeah.
And it's a song about God. And what is one of the most sacrilegious things you can do, drink alcohol as a Muslim. And yet it's about finding God in this, through intoxication, through losing your senses, and actually through losing your way.
Yeah,
You know,
it's beautiful.
just being on your knees at the bar, pour me another, and actually that's where you find God. So I think it's like you said at the top, it's a music that, like the best poetry, embraces paradox, which is what the show is trying to do.
Riz Ahmed, ladies and gentlemen.